welcome to JK Not Kidding Studios here in Detroit, Michigan. This is Bird Fight Records. We are here with Candid Conversations with professional musicians. This is our series where we are interviewing professional musicians in our area. If this is your first time with us, please make sure to subscribe, share this with your friends. If you're an artist and you're watching this, you know that this is going to be a very important episode. Why? Because we're talking about music business. And any musician who's out there who's telling you the business doesn't matter, the marketing doesn't matter, they're incorrect. It is an incredibly important part of this, maybe more important than the music itself, but we're going to find out that today. So, again, share it with your friends, tell them to get on here. We're going to be taking questions throughout, so make sure to ask any questions, put them in the comments. We'll get to them. We got a bunch already submitted from different people. We're going to hear some good ones. But what are we here to do? We're talking to Chris Simpson here. Chris,
Hey, what's going on?
Is a local musician. He's a music business guy. He has a great business that he started called Catch and Play Songs.
Yes, sir.
And he bases his business around music marketing, artist development, and building a community. So we're going to get into all of these things. And there's going to be a lot of information here that you're going to want to know. So write it down. Again, share it with your friends. And here we go. So thanks for being here. Chris.
Thanks so much for having me.
How are you today?
I'm doing great.
I see you're repping the Detroit Tigers hat.
Detroit
Is that for
Tigers.
a reason?
We're back 2-2. So the next game is whoever won against the Mariners versus Detroit, but it feels good for the win. It's a symbol of the brand. I upgraded to a JK Not Kidding Studios mug, so I feel great. Actually know the artist, I believe, is Oli.
Yeah.
I've worked with Oli before.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You don't have to pay him any royalties for using that mug, thankfully. We've got a good agreement with him. So.
Okay, cool.
Well, Chris, thanks for being here. You have your business, Catch and Play Songs. Give us just a quick elevator speech on what that is, and then we're going to get into some of your history, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, Catch and Play Songs, music marketing company with focus of 3 different pillars. That being music marketing, artist development, and community building. So kind of what that means is the business side for artists and musicians, right? So I come from being a musician myself, and I started a company based on the lack of education and resources that there were in the business, but also kind of local to the area of what I was finding and encountering, which really inspired me to start Catch and Play Songs.
Mm-hmm.
So Catch and Play Songs is a play off of the great sports team. So we just talked about the Tigers win today.
Mm-hmm.
That was the inspiration behind the name. So I kind of was walking the streets of Detroit, and then, if you're familiar with the city, all the stadiums are like in a big hub, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then right across from all of these stadiums and music venues is the sports teams, right? The Tigers, the Lions, the Red Wings, the Pistons are now all in the city of Detroit. And I thought to myself, in terms of inspiration for a business, is to take that energy that music is actually a lot like sports.
Okay.
And the reason behind that is you kind of need to have the right team. You need to have the right strategy. And in terms of the fan engagement that comes with sports and being part of a tribe, I took that inspiration in creating Catch and Play Songs.
Beautiful. That's a really nice story. I'm happy that you shared that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know that actually already. Well, cool. So you went to Wayne State.
Yep.
And then that's kind of what got you into a lot of this. If you would, just give me a little bit of your background at Wayne and kind of how you found your way through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was the musician that had the guitar on the back in high school, playing songs, learning songs, anything that I could get my hands under. I was really inspired by Motown, and my dad played a lot of classic rock. And then I got into the 90s grunge. I got into just really all the creative, just like all these documentaries. So kind of from that inspiration of like having the guitar on my back, and they kind of ask you the question, like, what do you want to do for college, right? And the reason couldn't be better to be like do something with music. And I had a really great band director. His name was Scott Corpus. I was at Warren Woods Tower High School. He's a really great band director. He was really inspiring. And I interviewed him on potentially like going to school for music education. And I was like, I want to be a teacher. I want to have a job, that I can also like support myself with, and I can also teach and give back. So kind of in the trajectory of doing that, going to school for music education, I auditioned for the School of Music at Wayne State as an education major. And I got into the program, got into the School of Music, and quickly realized that I didn't have necessarily the experience for a band director because typically my instrument of study was guitar. So by playing guitar, it's not the traditional orchestral instrument. So I
Hmm.
was kind of like maybe 8 years behind of most people going into that program. So I was like, okay, quickly pivot. Let me actually, go for what I'm wanting to do, which is like play music and make a sustainable career. So
Hmm.
I transferred to be a jazz studies student. So I did a couple of semesters at the jazz program at Wayne State.
Okay.
Very synonymous with like getting opportunities at the Detroit Jazz Festival, and
Hmm.
the Detroit Jazz Festival just got incredible amount of history in the city of Detroit. Um, so getting through there, getting through that program, I was gigging a lot. I
Hmm.
was teaching a lot of students, but I was asking the question of how do I market myself? What is the long-term strategy of making a living in music? And I was surrounded by just these incredible players, these incredible musicians, and I was asking that question not only for me, but then relaying that question to other people. I kind of found out that that's a very common question. That is, how am I marketing myself? How am I standing out? How am I making life as a working musician? Which came the inspiration of transferring to understand about the business side of music. So I came in at a really great time. My professor was Jeremy Peters, formerly of Ghostly International, Quite Scientific Records. So he was an incredible mentor,
Hmm.
and I made the path to like really understand the business. So not only was I taking classes in music and the music theory, piano, course of study, but then I was also taking classes in music publishing, intellectual property, survey of the music business, music industry stakeholders, learning how to deal with clients, artist management, record label. And that's kind
Hmm.
of how it kind of all started. It was just kind of like asking questions, and then surprising a lot answers started showing up.
Okay. Interesting. So you kind of had a nice arc there, right? You had this
Yeah.
idea of wanting to teach, then wanting to play, then learning a lot about the business, and
Right.
now you're kind of back around to helping teach the marketing, right, and the
Yeah.
business,
Yes.
which is really cool. Um, did you do any internships at Wayne State? Was that part of your your degree?
Yeah. So part of the program at Wayne State is to actually have an internship, two internship experiences in your undergrad, and kind of with looking at that landscape, you start looking at all the job postings that require 2, 3, 5 years of experience to get in the industry, and you kind of get a little bit frustrated because you're
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm just starting out, I'm new.
Yeah.
Where are the roads right there? So I was able to. My first internship was at a music lesson studio in Plymouth, and I started working, learning about the business side of booking music lessons because at that time I was not like actively teaching at that time, so I got to understand the small business of that, and then kind of came from like swinging vine to vine, like creating opportunities for myself, but also the ones that were available to me. So I had an internship with the Detroit Symphony Orchestra,
Okay, that sounds
doing the
fun.
the audience development side. Yeah, so I was
Okay.
working alongside the symphony right around just before the pandemic. I had a great opportunity to internship with Detroit Sound Conservancy, so doing some music preservation,
Okay.
digitizing sound, working in the archives. I was working at venues, Live Nation venues, St. Andrews Hall and the Fillmore. And then I was kind of taking the opportunity of like creating different things. And I was like, I want record label experience. And I was like looking around
Mm-hmm.
for a record label. I was like, okay, well, if you wanted to work at a label, you'd had to live in New York, Nashville, or LA, where like the major music hubs are. So I was like, well, could we create that same experience at Wayne State?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did. We gathered in a room, gathered some resources, and started a student record label called Old Main Records, which still exists today.
Cool.
It's a class that students can take, but I was using the university's resources of like the art department, the dance department, the law department, and I kind
Mm-hmm.
of saw where a lot of people saw like silos
Mm-hmm.
into like finding ways that those were like pockets of actually opportunity.
Yeah, and connecting these people.
Yeah, and kind of like the seeing people from like getting on the balcony and seeing that we're all at a ground level point of view, actually just wanting the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
which is experience. And the university had dollars to support it. They had a recording studio inside of Old Main, hence the name, the historic, the one that kind of looks like Hogwarts
Okay.
from the outside. They
Yeah.
had a studio in there, and then I was using the university dollars to fund artist projects. So we were working with independent labels. That's actually how we found Oli. He was one of the first submissions on the list.
I remember that. I think it's funny. I guess I either forgot or didn't know that you were one of the founders, or the founder. It sounds like.
Yeah, so there was four of us that were the founders.
Okay.
Put out a marketing form, and an artist, or rather an artist submission form. And actually, the first artist that submitted to the list was Oli, which is crazy to
Nice.
kind of like have like be a full circle moment, because this is a studio that he's recorded many records out of.
Yeah, he's done a lot of work with us here, so we've grown together with him too in a funny way too.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah. So I think it sounds like you've had some great experiences with your internship, and the reason I kind of wanted to talk about that too is we've had a few interns ourselves from Wayne
Mhm.
State. A friend of ours reached out, not knowing we didn't know internships were a possibility,
Yeah.
and he reached out last year and said, "Hey, I'm looking for something. Can you help me?" And we said, "Of course." And it now since then we've had a few interns. One of them being this gentleman here behind the camera,
Hey, shout out to
William. He's
Will.
been a huge asset to this series, Candid Conversation.
Yeah.
I like to try to shout him out at least once every time when we're doing these because we couldn't do it without him. But it was definitely one of those things where once we knew we could have interns, it became this idea of what can we have them do, what can we have them help with. But ultimately, we give the interns real work right away, day
Yeah.
one, if possible.
Very cool.
If somebody's here for a session, they're going to play, they're going to have input. We listen, we don't have egos about that stuff. You don't have to go get food or like drive around and do a bunch of stuff. You can be running a camera. So
Yeah. Love
it's
that.
been a fun experience because I don't know too many places that do internships, but there's always this thing of doing busy work in a way. And
Mhm.
for us, it's with anybody who's here, they have an input, they have a voice.
Yeah.
Just because they have less or more experience in some instrument doesn't mean they can't write a great part for a song.
Absolutely.
So, for us, it's been a lot of fun to have varied people in internships. And I know, we actually have a guy next semester that's supposed to do an internship, and he's doing school Berkeley online, but he
Yeah.
lives in Clarkston, I believe.
Right on.
And so he's going to be our intern next semester. So it'll be fun to kind of understand their
Yeah.
perspective because I think there's other stuff to it that we don't know yet.
There's so much of it is too just giving, like I was talking with Will too, is just giving students their first opportunity,
Yeah.
and then also like you said, just the autonomy,
Mhm.
and having ownership in a role.
Yes.
Because we were doing audience development things at the symphony that were very, trying to get new subscribers, new patrons in the door with the artistic programming, and having such a supportive environment at Wayne State with creating the label gave me the opportunity when everything shut down to do an internship with Warner Records, and I used that and I pitched the student record label as something that I was doing proactively and making a platform out of. So you can there's something like, and it's very rich just to this area in general, is just the strong sense of entrepreneurship
Mhm.
that comes with this city and this city's history of just like, if you don't see it, create the thing, but also like don't be afraid to ask about the opportunities as well.
Okay. I
Yeah.
think I have a question that you might find controversial, but do you
Sure.
think people should go to school for music, a college for music?
Do
You
people
had a
should?
good experience, but I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
it might just be you. You
Right.
were an entrepreneur. You just said it yourself. An entrepreneur now, you were then. You took what you could at the university.
Yeah.
But do you, when you talk to people who are up and coming musicians now, whether they're in high school or whatever, and they think they want to go to music school, what do you say?
Hmm. I think music school offers. I mean, people have different experiences. Like you said, I was very fortunate enough to just get a lot of great experience, both on academia side, but also like real internship work experience. Um, it really depends. Like, I would guess the question of like what you're looking to get out of it. Going to music school will give you structure. Going to music school will train your ear to understanding music theory and how to use that in a real time setting. It will also give you a network of like
Hmm.
minded individuals that are all the same age as you that want the same thing. So the energy there is great. Also, there's just an opportunity to work alongside building alongside a lot of the musicians that go through the program end up working with each other a lot
Hmm.
because they've had that practice time, that grind time together, and that mutual um, just like how I have also been through the same experience. We've grown up together, and so much of the networking happens very horizontally.
Hmm.
So you're able to build up long-term partnerships through there. Um, but in the music, you really gotta understand if you're wanting to make a sustainable career in music. You talked about just the kick off the interview is just a really great understanding of like business fundamentals and seeing yourself as a business, and that's what actually I help a lot of artists do is kind of take the self identity of knowing what you stand for, what your core values are, what you're trying to tell, and then doing business development scale around those things, your artist expression, your songs, your albums,
Hmm.
and things of that nature. Um, the downside is it is very expensive,
Yeah, of
So
course.
college is high. It's not
Hmm.
accessible to everyone,
Hmm.
but I would say generally I think it is a good idea to like be in that mindset and to be in that environment.
Excellent. Yeah, I think it makes sense. It still boils down to the individual because
Yeah.
you're saying it in a way that it's up to you as a college student to take the opportunity.
Right.
But anybody going to music school expecting to just pop out with something,
Yeah.
just kind of like coast through it just because they're good at some instrument, right? It
Hmm.
doesn't mean they're going to become successful afterwards, right? They
Right.
have to find the opportunities, they have to take them, they have to collaborate. And, inherently, I've seen that with people we've met here.
Hmm.
Not necessarily interns, I'm not using that. I'm just people. We've met a ton of people here, musicians, people who want to learn how to engineer, people who want to learn how to do video, whatever mix. They're really passionate and they come in, they do it one time, and then they never come back.
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you have to grind. We've given you an opportunity. We have a platform here to do
Hmm.
what we're doing, and that's what we've done ourselves. But now to the point where I'm asking for interns
Hmm.
and people want to do it and they don't either don't show or they kind of
Hmm.
don't know what they're doing. But again, it's a person thing, right? And I
Yeah.
think you can probably see that in school in general. Who's there to kind of coast through and who's there to like really make waves.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I have a philosophy on it now that maybe I'll just impart is like to me the ones who seem like successful and it's basically through social media, learning artists who break through, they've went to school for marketing.
Hmm.
They've gone to school for music business more than just like music instrumentation.
Hmm.
And why? Because this world is based around marketing and marketing yourself, right?
Yeah.
Branding yourself.
Yeah.
So inherently, you started a business to help with these things, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm going to transition nicely there. Catch and Play Songs, you
Yeah.
started in 2024.
Correct.
And what are your services?
Yeah. So generally just speaking, Catch and Play Songs is a music marketing company. So under that umbrella of services, um, we help people with branding. We help people with cultivating fans, uh, engaging a community. Social media is huge, right? With
Hmm.
content strategy, but also that really ties into single and album release strategies.
Hmm.
Um, Large part in things that I do in the company too, as well, being a trained musician um, with a bachelor's degree, is a lot of the music itself. So the artist development side comes in that way, where we're teaching private lessons. I teach personally piano, guitar, and bass, so a lot of my clients actually end up becoming students of mine
Okay,
too.
cool. Keep sharp.
Yeah, it keeps me sharp, and then also I just think um, a lot of artists are by themselves. Sometimes they're not
Hmm.
with a band, right? So they need an instrument to accompany themselves with. So I
Okay,
find
yeah.
that that's a lot of the things that doing. Generally, I've helped with project management,
Hmm.
royalty collection. So getting all of those streams gathered to there, so that you get a paycheck,
Hmm.
off of your records. And then I also offer like a sync licensing service.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. So when somebody reaches out to you, do you, how do they know like what they're in for? So if I wanted you to help me build my brand, for example,
hmm
um, how much is it going to cost? Like I know you do different sessions. So if I wanted to
Yeah.
help building my brand, how many sessions might that take? And then do you charge per session, per hour?
hmm
And then what's like a metric that you might go by? Because if you're saying building social media, do you ever say like I guarantee you can get 10,000 followers if you do this strategy, or you kind of say this is a way you could grow? And sorry for the five-part question.
Yeah, I'm gonna try my best to
Yeah, yeah. I'll,
to
I'll reiterate, but
sure.
how do you? Let's start over. I'm getting too excited. If I wanted you to help me, like whatever with any of those pillars, like typically, how do you gauge how many sessions somebody's gonna need?
Yeah. So I have a artist intake form that I do that is like I call it like it's a brand development guide,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a survey of questions that ask a lot of um that are like self-reflective, that like me make it easier to analyze kind of where they're at, because like you said, if there's not necessarily one size fits all in terms
Mm-hmm.
of like a marketing strategy or what a client needs done. um Typically they fill out that intake form. That form includes their goals, where they see themselves in 3 months, six
Mm-hmm.
months, a year from now, and
Okay,
then
that's one of the questions.
yep.
Okay, beautiful. I think that inherently tells you if somebody's serious or not.
Yeah.
I was gonna get into something like that later because if somebody says they don't know,
hmm
do you ignore them?
I do not know. So it's generally just that some people just don't know those
Okay.
questions, So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it is like slowly, like with building your business scale, it's like you're able to kind of align with their vision, right? So I,
Mm-hmm.
I typically don't get in a call clients and say like, what do you need?
Mm-hmm.
Usually I have that survey and intake form to kind of gather the information of what they're looking for specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, I'm asking generally questions too of like, how are you interacting with fans, right? What makes you stand out?
Mm-hmm.
Questions on storytelling, right? Describe yourself in 5 words.
Mm-hmm.
Describe yourself in a sentence, right? That's a pitching strategy. That's a messaging strategy, right?
Yes.
And from that you can kind of take it where you're on the call. You can meet a client where their needs are. Some artists are just starting out. They've never released music at all.
Mm-hmm.
Some artists have been around for a while and they're looking for more scale,
Mm-hmm.
so they're looking to build upon something that they've already been working on.
Excellent. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's at that point we have people reach out, and similarly, it can be so vague when somebody reaches out. So I'm like peeling the layers of an onion.
Yeah.
What do you need? What do you want? And then typically the more questions I ask, they can get more confused or they can get more concise.
Mm.
And I don't mean it, but like you, because there's like all these things like we're trying to figure out, right?
Yep.
I'm trying to figure out what service I can provide and like maybe how quickly,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not in the business of trying to pull money out of people here. I know
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to other studios and engineers who say let the clients kind of mess around and waste time, but we're not interested in them tinkering. Like I want to know what you
Sure.
want to get and we'll figure it out. But for you, you're gauging somebody's level of seriousness, level of knowledge and where they want to go. And
Mm-hmm.
that seems to be helpful because at that point you could say I think for what you want, you need 3 sessions,
Mm-hmm.
and then each session would cost a fixed amount. That's kind of how you
Yep.
operate.
Yeah, so I have a consultation offering, and then I also have like a project management offer that's much more hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
Like typically clients like to start with just the consultation.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean it's a great way to just even in general just create a great relationship that's built upon trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're putting in what they need and I'm surveying those needs before we're even started on a project. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we're talking about goals. I'm making sure that's okay with them and what's aligned with the partnerships that they're wanting to be a part of or how they're looking to promote their record. And I just feel like that is a great all relationships are like based on that trust. And as we get deeper into it, a lot of people like will go to like the project management services. They're like, actually I'm looking to outsource this thing. I can't do it on my own,
Mm-hmm.
or I need guidance of what would be a good template or a good messaging strategy in regards to marketing, releasing the record. I need you to plug and play,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, so you're able to gauge how much work it's going to be
Yeah.
and what they might expect. Because that's the tough thing. I mean, people might ask me for a quote in the same sense,
Yeah.
and our hourly, they might say that's a high hourly, somebody else can do it for less.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, I know what we can get done in an hour, and if we plan and if we do it, I guarantee you'll do it in a faster time here
Yeah.
than you might somewhere else. Even though the hourly's less, you're going to pay more
Mm-hmm.
with somebody else. So it's for me that's why asking these kind of like loaded questions with the artist so we can have a plan and we walk in and we go.
Yeah.
We make music. We don't
Mm-hmm.
sit here and figure out the plan, right? And you seems like you do that anyway with your
Mm-hmm.
consulting and we do a similar idea with a video call or phone call or whatever makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So we can just work
Yeah.
and not because I hate this idea again. I know I'm going back to it. It's like
Mm-hmm.
let somebody tinker around in here and then they might not notice it, but after a few sessions of a wasted hour, then that's 8 wasted hours and they're like,
Yeah.
why is my bill so high? Right?
Yeah.
That's not what we're here for. We're here to make music and
Right.
not take people's money in that regard. Um, so essentially you're telling me that like these different people come to you. So what advice do you have for artists that are trying to break out from being local to full time?
Local to full time, so that kind of means that they've been playing, local venues, been in
Mm.
the music scene at least regionally for a while, and they're looking to scale that to a national level. Is that the
Yes,
question?
I think yeah, exactly. National level or just break out of instead of playing casually a couple times a month, like how can they start to bridge and play more, go on
Mm,
mini tours, go on larger tours cuz I think inherently you're not just going to be playing once a month and going full national, right?
yeah.
But how does someone who's a local artist start to build up traction and what advice would you give them to do that? Or like what does that mean to you? Like how are they
Mm,
going to break out from being local to being full time?
yeah, it's I mean, something that you're already doing locally is just cultivating community, and how are you building scale on those things. So what I mean by that is like so we're having a consistent following of people coming to your shows, right? Is there a monetization aspect to that? Are
Mhm.
they're not just streaming the songs, they're going to so we have this marketing funnel that's happening, right? Where they're following a page, they're streaming a song for the first time, they want more. So you're creating this level of access, both on an investment and engagement level, where the fan wants to be part of the journey and wants to be part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, if somebody is looking to break out from their local marketing and looking to play nationally, I would recommend doing a cross pollination strategy where you're already maybe networking with a local band that is doing a tour, either regionally or nationally,
Mm-hmm.
where you can be a headliner. Because that's not only going to take the weight off from you selling all of the tickets, but that's also going to get you new fans too.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of I'm sure you can see across history that a lot of bands will just be like the opener for
Mm-hmm.
a band, on the road for a couple of dates, and then eventually they're able to scale where the fans are going directly to their shows. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a way to kind of like tease and amplify on that. That just goes for the concert industry. Um, you also have the opportunity that I think is slept on a lot is the idea of brand partnerships. And what I mean by that is taking partnerships that are maybe outside of the music industry,
Mm-hmm.
but are related to your brand and what you love, and might be clothing that you wear, right? So, I mean, I just saw a video on my feed about Stoop, who's actually played here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He got some free clothing from Carhartt,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Detroit brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Detroit partnership, collaboration post, right? So not only people that identify with Carhartt and really love Carhartt as a brand, they also love him as a Detroit artist. So that's a way
Yeah.
to kind of start breaking out of markets, right? When
Mm-hmm.
I interned at Warner Music Group, we were often asking, like, what's in your bag?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you carry with you, right?
Okay.
Oh, I have a Game Boy. Oh, I really love Taco Bell.
Sure.
And okay, there's actually like partnership and cross collaboration opportunities that
Mm-hmm.
can come with that. And then generally just like working um, to build that momentum of numbers, a consistent audience, because that's what booking agents, that's what record labels are looking for,
Mm-hmm.
is that if you already have traction and a following, that if I amplify that, that will scale. So that would be my best piece of advice is looking to find ways to like do less lifting work, where it's not necessarily fully on you, but you're building your team, but you're also working with collaborative partners that are working for you and not against you.
Okay. How would you suggest going about getting brands?
Getting brands,
Yeah, or like so you said
like
product
getting like
brand,
a brand deal.
brand deal. Yeah.
I mean, it could be as simple as locally starting out, like I know it could be very approachable for brands. So, like for example, like I'll give a Michigan artist. His name is Michigander.
Mm-hmm.
For his last tour, he played at St. Andrews Hall, and
Mm-hmm.
St. Andrews Hall did a partnership with Sabbath Coffee Roasters
Mm-hmm.
in Clawson
Yeah.
for a Michigander blend,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think he's done at least two coffee partnerships where
Mm-hmm.
they create like a special piece of merch, and all they do is just like putting like a really nice label on it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an easy way of access, but you're creating value to them, right? Saying, there's a way fans to participate outside of the show and support the music, but also new fans to be able to that. So it's all about your pitch.
But
When
do you
you're
think?
dealing with like bigger brands, I'm thinking that you're really trying pulling of like what audience that you already have existing and what you're bringing to the table, and
Mm-hmm.
then that's being able to negotiate. I have fans that really love me, and therefore, if you work for me, in a brand partnership, it's mutually beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think I remember Michigander with that Sabbath roaster, but at that point he was already pretty successful, I
Mhm.
would say, and he was already full time.
Yeah.
But if it was an artist who's kind of like on the cusp,
Mhm.
like what kind of brand deals are they trying to find local brands like coffee like that, and they're going and asking this brand like please help me, because I
Mhm.
think at that point the brand is taking a risk on an artist who's still
Hmm.
kind of getting their sea legs, right?
Right.
I
You know,
mean,
and the brand partnership doesn't always have to be like a financial one. It could be a really cool clothing shop. It's like, hey, can I wear your material, right, for
mhm.
a partnership? You know, like,
Yeah, and
can
talk about it on social media and be like, I'm wearing this
yeah,
from here,
exactly.
right?
I bought this from here. Can I create like a day in the life where I shop at your store and I create marketing traction for your store? So a lot of the stuff is generally like on a trade basis to start.
Okay.
But is it does their when you're pitching to a brand, does your mission align with theirs and what they want?
Hmm. Have you seen any local bands or local brands do these types of things? Like, if I were to walk into some spot in Royal Oak,
Hmm.
have you seen anything that's been successful?
Yeah, I mean, just this last year, I mean, there's a partnership with Shinola,
Okay.
and they were recording live streams in like the part of the shop,
Yeah.
you know, and they were live streaming, and that's a brand partnership too. That's a Detroit brand.
Who was the
Uh,
sponsor? I've seen some of those, but who was the brand sponsor with? It was just the artist?
it was with the artist.
Okay.
Yeah, so essentially they gave an offering of just space
Hmm.
and brand awareness to
Hmm.
create these live sessions in the
Hmm.
space. So it was a way for like a cool um
But did the artist get anything other than live video?
that I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the back end of
Because
their agreement, but I
I
think
saw a few of those for a while, and I haven't
yeah,
seen any in a while. So I'm not sure if they're still doing them or not. That's why
yeah.
I'm curious.
And I've seen the ones where it's like the artist, sits down and makes an actual watch
Okay.
Yeah.
with like a Shinola like watchmaker,
Yeah.
Okay.
where they sit down and just like make a watch
Hmm.
with them.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I've seen that too.
If you're even building scale, I think I saw something. I mean, just to talk Shinola specifically, the late great rest in peace Jay Dilla. They did a partnership with the estate to
Okay.
create a unique watch. Right, you could
Okay.
really have Dilla time.
Oh, nice. It's always a little bit behind.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of good stuff there. I think inherently an opportunity to bridge into a new audience is by having another brand outside of necessarily music
Right.
be helpful to you.
Mhm.
But I think it seems to me it's tough as an artist who's still kind of gaining headway. The music and the followers still need to come first before the brand is going to want to bring you on
Right.
or give you some merch to wear,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So if you're an artist, if I'm reaching out to you, I got a single coming out, I got an album coming out. What's kind of like your goal when you're saying to somebody, or your advice for a release schedule?
Um, in terms of like the marketing strategy.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
in general, because I think it's like putting the cart before the horse in some way. Because
Mhm.
it's saying I have to have good music to get a brand sponsorship.
Mhm.
So I got to write good music first. Then I
Mhm.
have to record said music, and then I have to put it out
Yep.
realistically.
Mhm.
So I don't know if I mean, you help people play, maybe not consulting on the production and the writing, but
Sure.
in order to get the brand sponsorship, you have to have the followers,
Mhm.
right? And you have to have the followers. You either have to do something cool
Mhm.
or viral or whatever. Cool can be viral, whether it's music or not, right?
Mhm.
So if I'm an artist, and I come to you for first to like help me get people to my shows. I mean, I didn't want to be rude. You said who goes to shows anymore? The local shows are like really dying. So do you help people like get people to their shows? And is it as simple as just making good music, or has that become passe?
Um, I think having great music is always like um really getting into your artistry and
Mm.
really getting good at the craft should be number one,
Mm.
right? The secondary of once you are being able to do that is being able to build and scale the business. Um, and I tell clients all the time, it's like the power of 1,000 fans,
Mm.
right? People think that they need millions of followers to be able to scale, And that's when they'll get big, is that's when the brands will start paying attention, right? But
Hmm.
if 100 or if 1,000 fans spend $100 worth on product, merch, shows,
Hmm.
being involved in maybe a fan club, right? That's $100,000
Hmm.
over a period. That's a great living to be making as a musician, right?
Sure.
But the really, like, in terms of scale of like building, getting that brand awareness and the numbers is just creating momentum and also having consistency,
Okay.
right? So consistency is always going to trump a viral moment,
Hmm.
because you could have a viral moment, and if you don't have content to back that up or momentum to build that, you'll lose it,
Okay.
right? But rather, if you are able to be consistent, right, able to show up, I'm encouraging a lot of artists that aren't seeing a lot of people at their shows to go to other band shows, right?
Hmm.
I mean,
Support them. They'll
just to
support
support
you.
them, support you, create the community that you want to see around you. And a lot of it has to do with that, especially now in terms of building that is showing up for others, right? Being a part of the community, right? And
Hmm.
ultimately, those fans will come and support you too as well.
Excellent.
Um, yeah, so I think it's an interesting conversation. Like, oh, I need the numbers, but like, what am I doing right now to start? Right?
Okay.
It's always a
Yeah.
question of how am I starting? Like
Hmm.
those types of conversations.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I think I agree with you. The community is a huge part of it that
Hmm.
social media has destroyed. Um, and I'm a victim of that to some extent too, because I
Yeah.
know 10 years ago I would go to a show, I'd watch all the bands
Yep.
because I didn't know them or not. But now if there's a band playing that I like and there's three or four other bands playing, I could quickly go on their Instagram, see do I like them or not,
Hmm.
and then think, oh well, I'll get there for the headliner, or I'll get there whenever I want to see my friend's band, and I'll miss the first two, right? And I think it's just too easy to do that because now you know, and because people are posting their good clips on Instagram, you would think that they're gonna post their best stuff. So if they sound a little rough, okay, maybe I'm not going to that one. But it first starts with the music, right? So if somebody comes to you, I got an album, or not, right? Do you think albums are dead? If I came to you as an artist and said, should I cut a single? Should I cut an EP? Should I cut an album? What would you suggest? And then how would I release it if depending on that?
Hmm. Yeah. So I think of albums being a statement and a body of work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I recommend, I mean, the streaming platforms obviously just reward consistency, and how you can be consistent is to just continuously release singles.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen like this, and I teach a lot in my marketing classes, is just this waterfall strategy. So you might have a bigger project, um, that has maybe 10, 12 plus songs on it, right? And instead of releasing it all at the same time, you could kind of lead your audience along the path of a story, right? And maybe it's a collection of things that are part of a theme. So, like, I always like to use Ed Sheeran's albums as a good example of that.
Okay.
They're symbols and they're color based.
Okay.
So you have symbol, you have divide, you have X,
Okay.
and all of these collections of songs, right? Even on like a lot of his albums, right? There's drawings on there, and each one of them represents a song, right?
Okay.
So there's a part of storytelling that happens with that, right? And there's also like this idea of tease, launch, and amplify.
Mm-hmm.
So like kind of like leading. Can I get the kind of like in movies, right? Can I get the trailer first, right? Can you get me excited
Mm-hmm.
so that way I'm like, ooh, this album's coming out. You're storytelling along the way. I'm interested. I'm following along, and then ultimately you have messaging that's directing towards a thing, which is streaming the album, buying the record, or going to the show. So it can actually be a really great way to create momentum by having that waterfall strategy of just slowly giving not everything away, but just little bits of things that you know that something's coming, you know that you're making a statement, and you know that it's an exciting time to be continued to be tuned in because you'll be releasing more material as you're going along the way.
Excellent. So if somebody's got an album, the idea would be a few singles,
Hmm.
kind of pump it up for whatever length of time you
Yeah.
deem necessary.
Yeah.
Because it seems like, even you used Oli as an example, and we released the Oli record a couple years ago now, but
Hmm.
inherently once we were done, he kind of felt a little bit existential about it. Like, should I release a full album or should I do a few EPs?
Hmm.
And then it's just this whole thing, but ultimately we decided to release it as an album because it is a body of work in that specific time frame.
Yeah.
But I think we did 7 singles,
Hmm.
and once 1 month for 7 months. It was a long kind of thing,
Yeah.
but it gave us this idea, and we tried different marketing strategies and marketing companies to help promote and
Hmm.
see what worked. But inherently now, we had an artist in 2 weeks ago who's just dropped a single every month
Yeah.
this year, and then put some ad dollars behind it on Facebook, and inherently that's done a lot for them.
Hmm.
Right, and I don't think he has any goals of making it an album. He's just trying to
Yeah.
release a song a month because it's the algorithm is doing its work for him.
Hmm. Yeah, and even just like you mentioned, and this is a very much a good topic in artists musicians is the mercy of the algorithm, right? Because we don't even control that, right?
Yes.
So just think about like in terms of releasing material, if he's releasing a single once a month, right, and
Mhm.
has marketing tied to that single, right? There's a consistent messaging, this consistent post that people are seeing, right? I could be on the like Instagram, right? And if I refresh my page, like that post is gone.
Yeah.
I literally have done that on my phone where I try and see something that I just saw
Yeah,
and it's like gone.
I know I hate that for the most part. There's times where there's those things that
Right.
they're like diamonds in the rough, and
Hmm.
you'll never find it again.
Yeah, but something of like being consistent with the content and posting regularly about it and having momentum, right? Is like I might have saw that, but I might not have engaged with that post then, right? And I'll go back, and then
Mhm.
all of a sudden, if there's 4 or 5 posts, I have something to catch up onto, right? I
Mhm.
have something that's like leaning my interest, right? That's having me hang out a little bit more, engaging a little bit more, and you think about like the 7 touch points of marketing, right? Seeing something on a post, a magazine, the radio, word of mouth,
Mhm.
just to name a few, right? Those are the things that are responsible of like taking actions is having that consistency and um that brand voice too, and a lot of that comes with like the marketing of like the colors and the
Mhm.
releasing of the singles, right? Stoop releases albums based off Pokemon video games.
Yeah.
So and there's a tie of nostalgia, there's a tie of like cartoons, right, and an audience that relates to that material.
Yes.
So when I'm seeing that, I think the last one was Ruby,
Mhm.
that red material I'm associating with that, right? And if
Sure.
I'm tying in like those points, I find that's the way to move in the space, right? Because you're not gonna know like there's so many songs being uploaded, right? Not gonna know what the mercy of the algorithm is, but having that consistency, having the ability to have multiple shots at the goal is the win that you want to be taking forward with your strategy.
Excellent. So this is, I'm assuming, a big part of the brand identity image discussion that you would have with an artist,
Yeah.
right? So is the brand, artist brand, does it end up being more important than the music itself?
I would say that they're interlocked. I think the songs tell a story,
Hmm.
and I think the brand is that's it's like passive versus active messaging, right? And if I'm seeing like something uh passive versus active, right? The tie-in of like answering the questions of who you are, what makes this special, right? What are my core values? And then the other side of that passive versus active branding is, like what is the familiar with what I'm seeing? Is there a specific logo? Is there a specific color? Are you posting on a consistent genre of
Mm-hmm.
music, right? So you're doing like this passive and active branding that ultimately relates to the music.
Okay. So yes, because it's tough. I think on social media, right? We tend to talk a lot on the algorithm here because we're on YouTube. We're
Yeah.
doing this,
Yeah.
right? And most of the people that we have interviewed are finding success on certain platforms, so we talk about it. But inherently, it's tough to break through.
Mhm.
It's a visual thing. So having a really good brand or a really good vision is going
Mhm.
to get people in maybe right away. But
Yeah.
if the music starts to not interest them, then they'll likely drop off.
Mhm.
Right? So it's like this funny thing where I've talked to people where it's like, if the music is really good or the audio quality is really good on YouTube, but the video quality is not quite there, people will stick around. But if it's the other way around, you would think because it's a visual platform, people will want highest quality video.
Mhm.
But if the audio is killer, then people kind of are okay with lesser quality video.
Mhm.
Um, but inherently, like I think it seems tough because I watch certain music business people. They come up on my feeds on Instagram, of course, and they kind of give you this whole extreme case of the business side and the
Sure.
branding side
Yeah.
because they themselves are trying to brand themselves
Yeah.
to get you to pay them
Mhm.
or pay for their services. So I'm just curious because it seems that there are many brands or images that supersede the music in a way where the artist is just a face or an image more
Mhm.
than the music. But
Yeah.
I think it depends on who you deal with, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and to that point with like a lot of consultants and other music business enterprises that do like the same things. One of the things that Catch and Play songs, the main focus is uh, I don't want necessarily people to come to my island specifically gatekeeping of relationships,
Mm-hmm.
but how could the thought of like was how could I create a company that is community focused, that is in the community, doing events in the community, to be able to start to connect, like this idea of collaboration over competition,
Mm-hmm.
right? That the more of us out there that are on the business side and able to connect statewide, the better and the easier that it is, right? And we're ultimately looking for the same thing, which is making a living off of music, right? And
Mm-hmm.
definitely want to be honest, be supportive, and meet a lot of the artists, where they live, which is in Michigan. So we're serving a lot of Michigan-based artists based on that, involvement, and that's something that's like very important to me. It's like eh, the more artists creating more music and having access to resources and opportunities, the better for the music industry as a whole.
Cool. I think that's really great. We're kind of in a similar ethos here at the
Mhm.
studio and at the label. This idea of not gatekeeping.
Mhm.
That's kind of how we started this series because same as you mentioned, we're trying to be professional full-time musicians as well,
Mhm.
whether it's by playing, writing, producing, having a label. But looking it up online is very vague.
Yeah.
And it's like you get these stories of people driving Lamborghinis and having Rolexes, and they're like, "Hey, this is what you need to do." It's not that realistic. I mean,
Mhm.
the reason we started this series, Candid Conversations with Professional Musicians,
Mhm.
is to talk to working musicians, upcoming musicians, on what little things they're doing to help themselves break out and succeed. And we're sharing that with people.
Yeah.
That's the goal. I mean, we want to do it for ourselves, but we also want the people with us to do it, right? If
Mhm.
I hope that all or at least one of the artists that we've featured will make waves, and not for my own sense, but because I want them to.
Mhm.
I believe in them, and it's
Yeah.
it'd be awesome to see, right? So I think it's cool that you've mentioned that, and especially in this community sense,
Yeah.
right? So if you're here for the first time, make sure you do subscribe. I'll give our plug here because we're at that point. Make sure you're subscribing, make sure you're liking, make sure you're sharing with your friends, following Catch and Play songs. Chris Simpson. Um, what is something that you're seeing that smaller artists are doing that might be holding them back?
It would be holding back their career. Um, it would be not releasing the music itself.
Mm-hmm.
Holding back,
Simmering on it too long.
simmering on the music, right? Not releasing the records, right? But a lot of the hardest, the common problem among like smaller musicians and musicians that are just starting out is you're going to ask for a lot of help,
Okay.
right? And this is
And it
a
can feel vulnerable.
yes, it can feel vulnerable. This is a people's business,
Mm-hmm.
right? So large in part, your success is your ability to navigate networking with people, creating relationships, and existing in a scene. Um, so I think that's something that a lot of artists aren't doing starting out is they're expecting everyone just to come to them,
Yeah.
for the music, and the music does speak for itself in a way, but even just starting out, right, you're gonna need help in spreading that word, but
Mm-hmm.
also like you're successfully you should be outsourcing some of your things to others that can do them very well,
Mm-hmm.
right? So knowing your strengths and weaknesses, to be able to kind of make moves in that landscape.
Yes, I think that's a wonderful way to put it. Being, like you said, the people's business.
Yeah.
It's sometimes can be difficult communicating with some musicians. They don't have the best communication skills. So it's tough, and I can see sometimes why people are having a hard time breaking through or booking gigs or whatever, because communication is huge, and you have to be able to be
Yeah.
a good communicator, be reliable in some ways, right?
Mm.
Show up, be on time,
Yeah.
and if you said you're going to do something, like commit to it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if you vouch for a friend and they fink you out, or they fink out the person you hooked them up with, you look stupid, but then you're not going to do it for them anymore,
Mm.
right? And the scene here, I think, is not huge inherently anymore. Maybe it was, maybe it will be. But I'm curious also, like, where do you see Detroit as far as in the music business a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, inherently, because so many, I mean, the industry is in Los Angeles, right? It's in Nashville,
Sure.
maybe a little bit in New York still. Most of the artists who are starting to make waves in Michigan, they move to the industry hubs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that Detroit can become a hub again at some point? Or like where do you see it falling?
Yeah, so I mean, just in general to speak about the history of Detroit, not only it is a music capital of the world, and has always found a way to rise above, and I think large in part is just the history of the Great Migration, the people that live here and move here, the fact that we have not a centralized transportation means that we do not have necessarily a hub, much like Austin
Mm.
or Nashville does, like a main strip. But the ability of where the city's landscape is realizing that with the creation of the internet and social media platforms is that you can actually make a career anywhere,
Mhm.
right? And starting out super local, you're finding that a lot of artists are moving to these areas, and it's already an oversaturated market. Just the
Mhm.
amount of people that are looking for the same amount of opportunities, that there's actually not necessarily a lot of growth, even though a lot of major industry players, record label companies have headquarters there.
Mhm.
um, quote unquote business being done on paper, that doesn't discredit the city and its talents and the cultivation of that. But where I'm kind of seeing is A lot of much like Chicago has been able to create with their music scene. We're kind of like sister, maybe little brother vibes
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the comeback that is coming with this city,
Mm-hmm.
coming with the restoration of the buildings, more people being downtown that actually uh, with the ability artists are able to own their own spaces, have affordable housing,
Mm-hmm.
and then being able to get around, different parts of Michigan. So it's very much a connection to that. Chicago is the way, Midwest, route. So you could definitely find your way of means of navigating around the state.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an alliance as well that supports the state and is funding artists and musicians to live here.
Okay.
So kind of where I see it kind of happening is it's gonna just be more and more. There's always artists that have always lived here and still have existed um, throughout the times, right? But more than ever, I think that this has always been like a music capital because those winters are super cold, man.
It's a
We
great time to create.
got a great time, got a lot of time in the basements.
Definitely. I think it's tough because so many artists claim they love Motown, they
Yeah.
love Motown music and Detroit Capital techno too.
Yes.
But I swear, so many touring bands skip through Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
They every other time they skip, and it's a bummer sometimes. 'Cause it's like, well, you talk a big game how much you love it here. Not necessarily people from here, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
like big artists coming through, they'll skip. They'll go from Cleveland to Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's disappointing because how are they expected to build a fan base if they're skipping every other time?
Yeah.
Or there's certain times where I've seen bands here who fill huge rooms like in Europe or like parts of California and New York, but then here they have this like mid-sized room and it's barely
Mm-hmm.
full. And then the next 3 times they don't come back.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they got a kind of a poor turnout, unfortunately,
Yeah.
right? And it's hard, right? Because all these bands on the road need to make money and they need to make sure they can fill the spaces they're paying for,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, I just don't know what kind of growth we're having,
Mm-hmm.
and just curious what you think.
Yeah, it's I mean there's a big push on corporate size venues, Live Nation and AEG
Yeah.
being the top two competitors in the area. 313 Prevents being maybe a smaller version of that, but it's the independent space is struggling really hard to keep that alive. Those 300, 400 cap rooms,
Hmm.
but luckily enough, Detroit still has those,
Yes.
and
And it seems there's always another bar kind of getting a good spot for people to play,
yeah,
offering a good
right.
cut and everything.
Yeah, and it's finding like spaces in the city like L Club
Mm.
or like Moondog Cafe
Mm.
that are able to support a smaller audience and a draw, so that way it's not much of a risk where you're not having to fill like a 1,500
Mm.
or 3,000 cap venue.
Hmm.
Um,
I mean, most local artists have trouble getting 50 people to their shows. I mean,
yeah,
realistically,
yeah,
and I think that's where there's the bars like the Lexington have become really popular
hmm
because it isn't a big place,
yeah,
and I've heard they offer really great deals to play there.
hmm
But I think it's like 70 cap room, so
yep,
you get 30, 40 of your friends. It feels pretty busy in there.
yeah,
Um, so I think it seems like there's more of those kind of rooms happening too. I mean, even 200 can start to feel like a lot for a
yeah,
local band, right? But it's just like you said. I think a big part of it is that community's sake.
hmm
If everybody's out there kind of gunning for themselves, they're not going to go see their friends. And
yeah,
there's been a few times where unfortunately there'll be 3 local shows in one night, and you're, man, I don't want, like, all these people know each other, and
hmm
now the audiences are going to be all divided. It's just kind of how it goes.
yeah.
Um, there's a few questions I wanted to get to from our online
Oh,
subjects.
cool.
Thanks for anybody who's submitted via Instagram. If you're on the chat now on YouTube, we're going to be reading questions off, so this is your time to submit them for Chris to answer, or me if you really want my opinion on something. I'll be happy to tell you.
Sweet.
Um,
I'm excited to hear it.
all right, Chris, what social media strategy do you think is helpful or not helpful?
Um, a social media strategy that is helpful is one that um, I would say is a couple of things. Uh, One that you're catering specifically to the platform that you're on,
Okay.
right? So if we're talking about TikTok and Instagram, it's definitely short form video content is the most popular.
Hmm.
You can start getting into more long form content on Facebook and YouTube. So knowing what type of medium to post, uh, in terms of social media strategy, you definitely want something that is consistency and has a call to action,
Okay.
right? So what exactly are you wanting your fans to do? Are you wanting them to pre-save a single? Are you wanting them to go to a show? Are you wanting
Mm.
them to engage, right? Something that is conversational, right? That requires an active wanting to participate, wanting to be involved.
Hmm.
Uh, you definitely want that fan engagement, right? You're creating not only a community for your fans to talk to you, but also to talk to each other. So anything where it can be participatory content.
Okay.
In terms of social media strategy, I would say anything that is user generated based content does really well on the platforms now. So people want to see the face to face, they want to see the day to day,
Hmm.
uh,
Kind of like behind the scenes in a
behind the
way.
scenes. They want the humanized
Yeah.
sense of it, you know. I think where a lot of people get wrong with their social media strategy is thinking that like just a cover or a picture of something alone will get the traction that they think want.
Yeah.
Um,
But inherently, the algorithm doesn't want that
the
either.
algorithm will not push that.
Nope.
I have seen case in point. There's a couple ways to get around that,
Yeah.
but I would say that in terms of social media strategy, that's something that I would definitely avoid.
Mm.
Is if you're not having something that doesn't have a call to action to it, isn't engaging,
Mm.
right? That makes me want to interact and not scroll on my phone, right? For those couple seconds that you have my attention, right?
Yeah.
And not being like consistent, right? So if you made a post saying new music out November 1st and you posted it at the beginning of the month and then you just posted the album, right? People might not even see that, right? There's not a stewarding of that relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Because you just said it. You have 1 second, maybe 2 seconds before somebody scrolls by.
Mm-hmm.
So you really got to grab them. And it kind of goes along with the branding in the same sense, right? This is all tying in. What's drawing somebody in to stay for that 1 or 2 seconds? Is it your look? Is it your music? Is it your branding? Is it your what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I would assume that a bad thing would be to try to follow the trends or chase the trends because if some type of video is going viral,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you start trying to do that, you're almost already behind it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you know what I mean, right? There's like viral types of things that people
Yeah.
can kind of recreate the same thing a million
Mm-hmm.
times.
Culturally, it makes sense to do trends because they are creating traction. They're something that people already know about that they've seen and they're saying you participate in it. But
Hmm.
the whole I think I saw a reel or something that's is trends end, right?
Yeah.
It's in the word.
Hmm.
It's in the word trend too. So it's definitely
That's funny.
something that um, good to know what's culturally happening around you to
Hmm.
be able to participate, but also knowing that it's a very short term strategy.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great input.
Yeah.
Um,
Do have one question from online as well.
Oh,
go for
cool.
it.
Yeah.
It says, "How should I copyright my songs? Does it even matter anymore, especially with AI song IDs, to think of songs they cover from the from the Russian ones.
Okay.
Yeah, so the question is, should I copyright my songs? The answer is absolutely you should. That's a part of your intellectual property.
Hmm.
Um, and if someone were to upload and copy or plagiarize that work, you would have that backed up that says that that is your own original body work. It also goes into the point of registering your music too, making sure that you're registered for your performance royalties. In the U.S., it's BMI, CSAC, and ASCAP, and also owning your publishing too, registering your publishing too, having something also in terms of with copyright as well. Really good question. Is making sure that your split sheets are all filled out and your songwriting splits are
Hmm.
filled out too. Because once something becomes viral, somebody who says, "Oh, I have ownership of this.
Yeah.
I wrote 50% of this record." So you definitely want to have things documented and put things in writing that you can just reference later.
Okay, that was another question we had from online is how do you typically negotiate splits? Or do you advise people to negotiate splits?
It depends on who you're working with, right? Some bands just do it evenly. Some people say, if you're like a Lennon McCartney situation, they're like, well, I'm writing the record. I own the writer's share and part of the publishing share.
Hmm.
The mixing engineer, the producer might want some points on the record,
Hmm.
right, for having the artistic direction.
Okay.
So they as a stakeholder might have a say in maybe ownership of the record. Um, you can also make these term limited too,
Hmm.
past a certain point. So it's all in terms of like negotiating what you think is fair.
Do you advise people do that in the beginning of writing a record or once they're done?
Absolutely in the beginning. Yeah,
Okay.
because you having to backtrack is way harder. But if everything is filled out, everyone agrees that like, hey, this is, obviously there can be edits later on, and you might make those changes as you're filling out the record.
Hmm.
You might come up with an idea or a specific lyric or something like that, or something in regards to the melody. But you definitely want that to be able to cross reference too, and then also this is really important for sync licensing opportunities too. So if you get your music placed in TV, film, or commercial, right, they're going to ask you for that split sheet, right?
Okay.
And they have a very quick time frame, so they want to make sure that's all on paper and all documented, that you can just send that right away, and they don't have to worry about somebody coming back months later and say, no, that was my song that you used without my permission.
Okay, that's great. So the next question, how would you advise somebody to get sync licensing?
hmm Yeah, so with sync licensing, one thing that I would suggest doing is finding out who the music supervisors are.
Okay.
IMDb usually will tell you that information.
Okay.
Do
For just
you
like various films or
various
whatever.
films, right? The credits of the films will tell you that, and that's the person that's picking the music,
Mm.
um, for the specific medium, visual medium.
Okay.
Also, another really great uh, opportunity to look for sync licensing is just making sure that you have instrumentals and stems
Okay.
of your work too, because they might not necessarily want the the lyrics or the vocals
Okay.
on the record. They might just want the instrumental. You're gonna have that like booked and ready to go.
Hmm.
Also like in pitching for syncs too, right? Using you, we, I are all kind of universal,
Okay.
right, to meaning. So a lot of like music music that's pitched for sync licensing is sometimes that way, you
Okay.
know.
They
Um,
wanted a little bit more vague.
yeah. Also like doing research too of like knowing what type of music that they've programmed on the show,
Hmm.
because you say like, could my music be synced to this, right? Is this the genre of music that they're playing or the styles, you
Hmm.
know? Um,
Do you find sync like licensing companies are helpful?
Yes.
So by getting into somebody's catalog, they're kind of doing the legwork for you.
Yeah, so there's you can pitch to various like sync licensing administrators
Okay.
that will pitch on behalf of your catalog for a fee or a
Mm-hmm.
percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And typically that has it works. They either have an exclusive or non-exclusive license. Typically it's non-exclusive, so that means that they can like use the work, right? They don't need necessarily a lot of different stakeholders have permission to use that work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually like term that they don't actually like own the record as well.
Okay. Excellent. That's beautiful. I think that's seemingly a good way to make some real money
Yeah.
because streaming, of course, makes nothing.
Hmm.
But by getting yourself some sync licensing, there's real money there.
Yep.
I know with Oli, he's gotten a few through Assemble,
Yeah.
and they pay decent, right? Much more than it would cost, much more than streaming.
Yeah.
So even though they're on the low end of local commercials or whatever, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. But it was nice to actually see some real money. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's beautiful. Do we have any more online, or how are we doing here?
No more online.
No more online. Thank you for the person that did submit. We appreciate it. That was a really
Yeah.
good question because that is an interesting point now with technology. You can just say, "Oh, I created it at this point," but as Chris mentioned, you do want to get that copy written for real. Let's see. Do I have any more here that I didn't touch on from our online community? I had one more that you talked a little bit about Ed Sheeran, which is fine. I think I'm curious. What is there an artist in the last year who's kind of broken out, who's doing everything right, and something that things that we should copy if we're trying to become artists, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's two artists that I think of locally that are
Not necessarily locally, but
locally. Oh, yeah.
anybody, just whatever.
That are doing a great job in regards
Anybody who's
to.
broken out in the last year, it could be on social, it could be local, I guess, but
Yeah.
they're doing everything right. And like, what maybe are they doing right that we should copy, or somebody out there should copy?
Yeah, definitely. Just to talk locally, since we're 20 miles north of Detroit, right?
Yeah.
I talked with two artists. One being Stoop Lee,
Mm.
the other one being DJ Killa Squid.
Okay.
Something that I think that they're doing right is they're embracing the Detroit lifestyle and the connection of culture
Okay.
to their passion. So, I mean, we touched earlier in this interview about Stoop Lee kind of doing albums related to like tied to nostalgia. So they're all Pokemon game
Mm.
themed, right? So each one of the records is themed around like this specific color, and you can tie in that like cross pollination of like marketing, something that's already existing.
Mm.
DJ Killa Squid has a partnership with Visit Detroit.
Okay.
So she has a really great brand partnership that she's been using to tell the city of Detroit, but also tie in with her marketing and her gigs and her partnerships. She's worked with StockX before.
Okay.
Artists that I think that are breaking out and doing a really good job just to kind of across the board. I'd say that Charlie XCX had a
Okay.
really great year with Brat.
Yeah.
Just kind of being, I mean, as simple as just like a very lime green color,
Mm.
like kind of this almost hyper pop esque like record. And there's also like the fan like cultivation that comes with that, right? Tying into
Yeah.
like
I
the summer vibes, right? Catching the wind of that.
I think I guess I'm trying to see somebody more of like who was completely unknown to then now is known in
Hmm.
some way.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, Charlie XCX. I mean, you mentioned Ed Sheeran, which no shade to Ed Sheeran, but he's been large. He's been big for a while.
Hmm.
Maybe that's why. But it's like, it's funny to see. In some ways, I've been seeing a lot lately about this band Geese, and Pitchfork has been talking about them because they did a thing. They played outdoors in Brooklyn recently, and there was all these people there, and they're like, and they kept saying, "This is Gen Z's rock band."
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is Gen Z's rock band, and then they're like, they blew up overnight, right? I don't know necessarily why or what. I saw them play The Loving Touch 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
right, in a way, and I somehow got lucky on Spotify where I got one of their tunes.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been consistent. They've in 3 years they brought out 3 albums, which is
Mm-hmm.
pretty good, right? But also they've been on touring a ton. So it's like that's where it's like what I don't know what their social media strategy is, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
now you can look at it from a different perspective. You never heard of Geese, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, of course, they just came out of nowhere. They're on my feed all the time now
Mm-hmm.
because they've been doing all the things that you've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
That's like these overnight success stories. It's only because you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, you haven't seen like the grinding in the background that
Yeah,
it's been
I
like years of.
I reached out to Geese to do a live video with us
Yeah.
when they played The Loving Touch, but it didn't work out based on their schedule.
Yep.
Right? We've tried to interject into touring bands' schedules to get them to come here,
Yeah.
but typically they're booking out these tours. They don't have time off, days off to really come do a thing.
Sure.
So we've gotten lucky a couple times, but it's interesting to me how, like you said, there's this thing. I always you said 7 degrees. I've always heard it as 3. If you hear it or see it 3 times, it'll get you to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see it on your feed, maybe your friend tells you, maybe you see it a third time on your feed.
Yep.
That's like when people would actually go and listen.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not that's true, I mean that's just what I've heard, of course.
Yeah, I think it ties in a little bit to like just the human experience and psychology too, of just having familiarity with things. It's
Yeah.
having trust,
Exactly.
and it's having interest, diving deeper,
Hmm.
you know. It's a hard business to break. A lot of the overnight successes are very strategized and they're very much of hard work, right? And it showed up because they've been consistent,
Yes.
and intentional about their relationships and where they see themselves in being driven.
Yes. I think I'm gonna transition into a gripe that I have because I think talking to people and what we do here when it's like what's your social media and the artist will say, "Oh, I don't do that," or "I don't care about that." I envy them to some extent because I waste way too much time on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you're never going to succeed if you're not on social media to do it. You have to be putting yourself out there, I
Mhm.
think. Nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's just going to like you make a record and just happen to just nobody's going to care, right? Even like you said major labels want you to have already had a following, have already built traction. They're not going to build it for you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it can be a little comical to me when I talk to musicians, and some of which write great music, but they don't want to do the social media thing. It's like, okay, then you're not taking this seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can't continue to do too much together because I can't keep putting my eggs in a basket if you're not contributing the same
Yeah.
amount, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's my hot take. If you're a musician
Mm-hmm.
you're not on social media, then just stop doing it. Right?
I think there's you want channels that you can be discoverable on, and a lot of things when it talks like social media is how is it authentic to them and the message that they're trying to tell. It's like you don't have to be like, hey, what's up, you guys, every video that you put out, right? That might not be you at your core, right? But what is at your core that you want people to know about, and how can you communicate that to an audience?
Yes,
Right?
I love that. Exactly. Because just because one artist is successful with like these full-on rants in their car, if that's not genuine to your brand, you don't have to do that. But finding what you can talk about or where you can nerd out about, like me, guitar pedals.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just, of course, I'm, being egotistical here on my, microphone. But inherently, like you said, it's finding what is genuine to you. And I think people want genuine. That's what we're all kind of searching for, hoping for, right?
Yeah.
You can see through it so fast when somebody's not.
Mm-hmm.
Or when somebody's trying to do some sort of grass is greener thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? All right, so I think We got one more question that we ask everybody here on the show. But first of all, I already gave my hot take, so if you have a hot take, I would love to have it.
A hot take for the Bird Fight Records.
Just in general, you can be about anything. I got more if you want me to rattle off a few more.
I want to hear yours. Yeah, give me another one.
Where a guy if you talk about the eggs.
Yeah, this guy loves about that one. I had one planned, but then I ended up just using a different one. But I was just to say AI is ruining music, and it's likely just ruining our planet. But that was going to be my hot take for today. But I already said to you, if you're a musician and you're not on social media, just stop doing it. Stop. You're not going to be successful. Sorry. How do I know you're playing? How do I know you're releasing anything?
Man, that's what it's all for. Is
Yeah.
to reach.
I didn't want to do it for the longest time. I remember, and I'm like, this is so stupid. I don't want to be doing this, but you have to.
Yeah.
So, all right. If you got a hot take, if not, I'll just keep. He's giving me the side eye over here because he knows what I'm thinking.
Yeah, sure. I'll just say one. I think vanilla ice cream is underrated.
Underrated. All right, that's cool.
It's pretty vanilla though.
Yeah. Can I tell you a funny story? Okay.
Sure.
We did one, and actually, this artist, she said vanilla ice cream was the best ice cream flavor.
Yeah.
And I disagreed with her, and I said, no, I think chocolate peanut butter, right? And we laughed about it, and we got a whole hot take from all the bands.
Yeah.
But we made a reel out of that, and somebody commented that she was flirting with me when she said that.
Oh.
And that really cracked me up because I never would have thought that. But it's like, oh, she was flirting with you. I'm like, oh, wow, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I think it's funny, like what people can see under the lens of that one clip, right?
Yeah.
All right, so the question we ask everybody on this show at the end, if you're still here, just make sure you share, give us a subscribe, give us a like. We really appreciate it. It goes a long way. We've talked a lot about social media. It's huge. Turn on the bell when we're doing these things, all the YouTube stuff. But inherently, the question we ask, and we'd love to hear this, is how do you define success as a musician? And do you feel that you are there yet?
Yeah, success can come in many different forms, but I think for me, in terms of defining success, it's just living the mission.
Mm-hmm.
And that ties into my core values, and I truly feel like the events that I'm doing with Catch and Play Songs, the artists with I'm working are serving that mission.
Okay. Yeah.
Helping artists with resources, giving them the music education that they need, but also cultivating community along the way with all the different events that we do.
Excellent. Can you tell me a couple of these events you have coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're doing actually 2 events. One is going to be this weekend, Saturday, 10/11 at Passenger Recovery. We're doing a music therapy community oriented health market, right? So that's open to artists, musicians, creators, visual artists. That will be at Passenger Recovery. Their new location, that Passenger Recovery also has a radio station called Passenger Radio. It will be in the Christopher Gallery. That's a new artist space in Hamtramck, but that will be 5 to 9. And then following that weekend, on October 18th, the next Saturday, we'll be presenting Business in the Key of D with the Michigan Music Alliance. So that will be an all-day music business conference at Wayne State University that will have people in the business, artists giving presentations, workshops, panels, and we're excited for you to be a part of it as well.
Yes. Thank you. We appreciate you giving us the opportunity to be there. So we'll be there with a table. We'll be selling some records, giving out some merch. So make sure you come say hello to us. We're excited to just learn as well. We're excited to meet some people. I've been looking at all the panelists and all the different speakers coming up, and it's going to be a great wealth of knowledge.
Absolutely.
So if I were coming if I wanted to be there as an audience member, how do I do it? Do I sign up? Do I have to pay an entry?
Yeah. So go on if you're not following the Michigan Music Alliance on all channels. That's where you can register and sign up to purchase a ticket. We have a it's $50 for general admission, but $10 for students. And it's going to be all day. So if you're looking to get advice in booking, branding, I'm giving a presentation on branding. There's a panel on booking community, getting sync licenses, working in music tech and brand partnerships. So it's an event that you truly don't want to miss because these are professionals that are working in Michigan, in the state. So this is like right in your backyard, right in Detroit.
Perfect. Yeah, it's going to be a great time. We thank you for inviting us to be there. So thanks a lot for being here
Of
today. This is
course.
a
Thanks
wonderful
for having me.
chat. We've kind of gotten all over the place. So I have many questions that we answered, and I'm happy with all the answers. So if you're there for the first time on our channel, thanks for being here. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, share with your friends. If you're an artist and you want to be on this channel, we'd love to have you. So today was a fun exception where we had Chris. Chris is a professional musician, but we don't have any music happening right now. Typically, if you've seen some of these shows before, we have bands play or artists play, and we do some chatting in between. So if you are an artist and you want to be here and you want to show us your music and talk about some cool things in music business, let us know. We'd love to have you. And again, thanks to Chris.
Thank
Thanks to
you.
Catch and Play Songs for what the work they're doing. It's been a great project that Chris has started, and it's shown a lot of success here in the Detroit area. And we'll catch you next time. Thank you. We're here.